I have been dreading this process since before I even started my master's program. And the time has finally come. So here we are. I am officially knee deep in, or it's probably more like waist deep at this point. I am waist deep in my dissertation process, and I hate it here. So I thought, why not make videos about my dissertation process and progress to help me cope? And so anyway, yeah, I decided to start this, I'm gonna call it a dissertation diary series, where I will basically be documenting my process and my progress towards completing my dissertation and kind of like giving my insights along the way. I intend for these videos to be much more informal than this, but I thought that since this is going to be the first video in the series, that I should probably do like a more formal kind of sit down and explanation, because I really don't want to assume that everyone knows anything. And so I just want to give like a general overview of kind of what this process is going to look like for me and where I'm at currently. So yeah, let's jump right in. Hey, hello, my name is Jojo and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. So what is a dissertation? I feel like I framed that as like some big philosophical question. It is not. So what is a dissertation? I believe from how I've heard it used, there are some programs and some institutions that use the words thesis and dissertation synonymously, but in my program, they are not the same thing. In my program, your thesis is what you work on while you're in the master's program, and you have until the end of your first year in the PhD program, should you be accepted. You have until the end of your first year in the PhD program to complete it. And your thesis is like a 50-ish page research paper, and it is typically a study or multiple studies that you conduct while you are a master's student. Your dissertation, though, is the big boss. It is the 100 plus page. Oh man, okay. Your dissertation is a 100 plus page book, essentially, that you write about one or more studies that you chose to conduct while in your PhD program. And when you complete it, it is sort of like the symbolic end of your life as a student and your entrance into doctordom. And it can, but doesn't necessarily have to be, an extension or an expansion on whatever you did for your master's thesis. It can be like an entirely new topic and study altogether. My dissertation is in fact sort of like an expansion on my master's thesis, because I didn't actually get to do the full study that I wanted to do for my master's thesis, because it happened to be kind of right in the height of that period of time in the history of the United States and world that is all kind of just like a blur now. Yeah, it happened during the height of, you know, that 3-year period. And so I was really limited in what I could do. So it ended up being a much smaller study than I originally wanted it to be, which means that some of the data that I collected, I couldn't actually like use for like the purposes that I wanted to use it for. Like I couldn't run the analyses that I wanted to run. And so my dissertation is kind of serving as, what's the word? Retribution? Is that the word I'm looking for? Probably not, but my dissertation is in some ways me redoing my thesis and then adding on top of that. And so I am basically doing like my thesis 2.0. That's how I like to think about it. And so yeah, in my program, once you have finished your master's thesis and defended it successfully, you are onto your dissertation, and there are different stages of your dissertation process that you have to complete, and within specific timeframes, or like suggested timeframes, but more or less it's like a very specific kind of milestone time frame that they like for you to do things in. So stage 1, or step 1, is your pre-proposal and committee selection. These two things can happen at the same time. They did for me. These are basically like the two pre-initiation steps that you have to do. So the pre-proposal. I've spoken multiple times about the pre-proposal in several videos because I've already gotten that step done. The pre-proposal is basically like a summary of what you are hoping to do in your dissertation. It's very general, very brief, and it's basically just intended as a way for you to demonstrate to your dissertation chair that you have begun thinking about and working towards solidifying some sort of idea and plan. And the pre-proposal doesn't have to be submitted to your entire committee. So because of that, it is the least formal kind of step in the entire process, because it's really up to your dissertation chair how they would want you to complete this step. So for my advisor, she asked me for a 5-page summary that was formatted basically as like a little mini proposal. And like I said, I submitted it over the summer, and she approved it with some feedback that she gave me for next steps. And in my program, it seems like they would prefer you have this done within the first 2 years of being a PhD student. And during this time, as you're working on your pre-proposal, or even before or immediately after you've worked on your pre-proposal, it's also a good idea to finalize your dissertation committee. And so in my program, our committee is comprised of your dissertation chair, which is the faculty member under whom you work in, whatever lab you're in the program. Then you have 2 psychology faculty members, one of which is required to be another faculty member in our program. The other one can also be a psychology faculty member in our program, but you are also allowed to request an external psychology faculty member from another institution. And then there is an appointed dean's representative that is a non-psychology faculty member at the school. So in total, the committee is 4 people, and the point of the dean's representative is basically like a checks and balances system. They want to make sure that there's someone on the committee who doesn't really have any stakes in whether or not the student passes, as a way to kind of prevent people from just passing students because they want to make sure that all the students graduate, or they don't want to like sully their reputation as being an amazing dissertation chair or whatever. It's basically so there is an objective person present who can make sure that what needs to be getting done is actually getting done, and there's no funny business going on. After that is step 2, or stage 2, which is proposal writing and defense. And of course, as always. Okay. So proposal writing and defense is basically where I am now. The dissertation proposal is essentially your full literature review, as well as your fully planned methods of your study. I've found for myself, the best way to think about it is that you are starting to write your dissertation just minus your results. And I found that when I think about it this way, it feels a little bit more intimidating, but simultaneously a little bit more relieving, because it means that I am getting a good, maybe like half of the bulk of the work done now, which means that hopefully I will have less to do later. And so generally, while working on your dissertation proposal, it is probably a good idea to meet with your dissertation chair as regularly as you possibly can, so that the 2 of you can troubleshoot any issues that might come up sooner rather than later. I have been meeting with my dissertation chair every other week, and in our first couple of meetings, we did just some general updates because we hadn't met since over the summer. And then we also reviewed some of the feedback that she left on my pre-proposal, just so I could clarify some of her thoughts before getting started. In our more recent meetings, because stats is absolutely not my forte whatsoever, we have really been focusing on kind of solidifying my research questions and my hypotheses for the quantitative portion of my study so that I can choose the appropriate analyses to run once I have my data. My dissertation chair is like a stats expert. I don't understand. And sometimes when she's talking to me about stuff, it literally sounds like gibberish. Like if y'all have played The Sims, what is it, Simlish language in The Sims? That's what it sounds like to me most times when she's talking about stats stuff. I ask a lot of questions when I'm talking to her about stats because it just, yeah, no. So that's what I've been working on with her. I've also been not meeting with, but emailing back and forth. I probably will end up scheduling a meeting pretty soon with her because my dissertation, my intended plan is for it to be mixed methods. I've also been communicating with one of my other dissertation committee members who's an expert in qualitative methods. And I've been getting her input on the more qualitative aspects of my study and trying to like nail down a specific analysis method that I want to use for that. And that's a note that it's really important to have different people on your committee who can help you with different aspects or are experts in different areas of what you're planning to do for your dissertation so that you can kind of spread out the workload and get different opinions on stuff. And as you're writing your proposal, it is not necessary for you to like send constant updates and drafts to the entire committee. That's really more just your chair's responsibility. However, the final-ish version of your proposal does have to be sent out to the entire committee, and then you have to coordinate and schedule with everyone on your committee a single day and time for you to defend your proposal. To be quite honest, I don't really want to think about that part right now because I'm nowhere near being ready for that. I literally cannot think about it right now. It's just, it's too much. But anyway, as far as proposal defense goes, in my program, and I'm pretty sure like across the board of all clinical psych programs, it's required that this step be done and your proposal successfully defended by the end of the spring semester before the fall semester in which you plan to apply to internship. So for me, that would be this upcoming spring of 2024, because I plan to apply for internships in the fall of 2024. However, I am hoping to have my proposal defended by the end of this fall because I refuse to go into winter break stressing over this. So fingers crossed that that actually happens. And so stage 3 or step 3 is conducting your study and running your analyses. Yeah, once your proposal is defended, it's time to get to work basically. Depending on how complicated your study is or how many studies you are conducting, you can spend anywhere from, wow, that was aggressive. You can spend anywhere from a few months to over a year collecting your data. Based on my current plans for my dissertation, I'm anticipating that I will be collecting my data for at least a full year. I'm hoping not to go beyond that, but for at least like a full fall, spring year, I will be collecting data. Again, I don't entirely want to think about it in too much detail or else I'm going to have an anxiety attack. So moving on. And then finally, step 4 is writing and defending your dissertation. If you have kind of framed your proposal in the way that I'm thinking about framing it, then basically all you have left to do is write up your results, as well as like write your discussion, any limits. Why are y'all so mad today? as well as writing up your discussion, any limitations, and then also going back and editing and updating your literature review if any new research has been published on your topics, and then also editing your methods section if you at all adjusted your methods during the process. And then I'm assuming once you are as close as you can possibly get to being happy with your finished product, you will once again submit it to your entire committee and then schedule a day and time to defend. In my program, your dissertation defense has to be scheduled, I believe it's at least 1 month prior to your anticipated graduation date. And that's because if you don't do it at least a month before, I think like the paperwork doesn't get done in time or something, and then you can't graduate. But yeah, that is basically the entire process kind of laid out very generally for you all. I really just wanted this first video to kind of give you a sense of what the process is gonna look like, and then also where I currently am in the process and how much farther I have to go. Like I said, in the future, these videos will be much more informal, probably more like vlogs, where I will just be talking to y'all about my thoughts and my feelings and my doubts and inevitably some tears. Sorry, that got really dark really fast. But yeah, all of that. So yeah, I am looking forward not to this process, but looking forward to documenting it with y'all and showing y'all a little bit. But hopefully it's also like interesting and fun for y'all to watch and, you know, witness my misery. Also, if you have any questions, like specific questions about the dissertation process at all, whether that be choosing a topic or writing or, you know, creating, I don't know, timelines or whatever questions you have about dissertations at all, go ahead and comment those below and I will answer them in future dissertation diary videos, because I also want them to be helpful. I don't want to just like document my progress and not have something like informative to also contribute as well. So anyway, yeah, thank you for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. I truly appreciate it. Leave me a comment down below if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos. As always, like, share, and subscribe, and click that little notification bell so you don't miss my next upload, and I'll see you in my next one. Hey y'all, so I met with my advisor this morning. It's like afternoon now because I had a bunch of other things to do, but I met with her this morning and I'm like officially like in the writing phase of my proposal. So like before I was meeting with her and we were kind of just like finalizing questions, hypotheses, all of that. And I'm still working on like the qual questions that I'm going to be asking, but at least for like the quant portion, I can start writing up my methods and all of that. And so I asked my advisor if she had like a particular format that she wanted me to use, because I have been like Googling various dissertation examples, templates, all of that, and they all look different. Like for some reason, the ones I'm finding, they all look different. And so I asked her if she has a particular format that she would want me to use, and she sent me her dissertation as an example. And I feel like that is like the worst decision. Like saying yes, she asked me if I wanted her to send me hers so that I could take a look at it, and I feel like doing that was probably the worst decision I could have possibly made, because now I'm feeling like so much pressure because I know that I have her dissertation as an example. She wrote a lot, and like it was just like, it's really intimidating to look at. Like her table of contents alone spans like 2 pages. Like I'm just gonna show you. I'm gonna show you. This is her dissertation. Just the table of contents spans like a page and a half. Like what? Like I can't possibly imagine writing this much. And like granted, like hers isn't even as long as mine is gonna end up being, Her references start on page 94 of her dissertation. I am almost certain that my dissertation is going to probably end up being like twice that length. And now that I have finally been able to like conceptualize how much writing I'm gonna have to do and how long it's gonna be and how much work it's gonna be, I'm like freaking out. I don't know. I just had to share that little tidbit because that's how I'm feeling right now.